One of the unavoidable feelings of human emotion is loneliness. Everybody feels lonely from time to time. 52% of Americans report feeling lonely. 47% report their relationships with others aren't meaningful. 57% of Americans report eating all meals alone, regardless single or not. 58% of Americans reported that they sometimes or always feel like no one knows them well. We are living in the most connected time in human history, and yet an unprecedented number of us feel isolated. Being lonely and being alone are not the same thing. You could be surrounded by people, living a socially vibrant life, and still feel like a stranger. The common misconception is that loneliness is solely linked to social awkwardness or physical isolation. But in reality, loneliness can swallow anybody. Fame, money, power, beauty, social skills, a great personality, nothing can protect you against loneliness because it's part of your biology written in our DNA. However, for many people, this feeling is temporary and passes relatively quickly, but for some it lingers, making it more challenging to break free. Here are some statistics. 1 in 3 people, or close to 33%, of people in the U.S. experience loneliness on a regular basis. 73% of millennials say they are lonely. 22% of Generation X members say they are lonely and have no friend. You might start feeling lonely as early as childhood, even before you have a clear understanding of the term itself. Although children may not fully comprehend loneliness, they perceive it as a negative experience. At this age, being alone and loneliness are strongly linked with survival. As we grow older and being alone no longer poses a direct threat to our lives, we start to comprehend the social dimensions of loneliness. Peer pressure becomes a significant part of school life as we aim to be accepted and avoid being alone to prevent emotional loneliness. It's during this time that we clearly learn to associate loneliness with actual emotional pain. Not wanting to be the person sitting alone at the lunch table, or that one kid who gets left out for birthday invitations. All these experiences can directly translate into feeling of rejected and may become associated with depression. Often, feelings of loneliness could stem from or be associated with depression. During the teenage years, loneliness can establish deeper roots, entwining with fear and depression, impacting various dimensions of one's emotional spectrum. It's a pervasive issue, with over 80% of young people under 18 expressing feelings of loneliness, and 43% of those aged 18 to 25 reporting a sense of being unloved. Moreover, a striking 61% of younger individuals in the U.S. admit to experiencing chronic loneliness. If loneliness is indeed a universal experience, delving into human evolution provides insights into the critical role of social bonds for survival. Millions of years ago, our ancestors thrived through collaboration and forming connections. Sociality wasn't merely beneficial, it was essential for survival. Natural selection favored those who cooperated, understanding that caring for offspring alone was nearly impossible. In this ancient context, being together meant survival, while being alone posed a genuine threat of death. This inherent need for connection ingrained itself as a fundamental aspect of our biology. Facing isolation and rejection within the tribe posed a dire threat, potentially leading to death. In response, our bodies developed a mechanism known as social pain. This evolutionary adaptation aimed to induce behavioral changes, steering individuals away from actions that could result in rejection. The ultimate goal was to foster acceptance instead of rejection. This is precisely why rejections are so distressing and why loneliness carries such a profound sense of pain. Until the Renaissance, these mechanisms kept us connected in the Western world. However, the landscape shifted with the rise of young Protestant theology, which emphasized individual responsibility. This shift gained momentum during the Industrial Revolution as people left their villages for factories and cities expanded. Centuries-old communities began to fade, paving the way for the fast-paced modern world we know today. In today's world, survival no longer depends on staying connected to the entire village, yet many people inadvertently find themselves slipping into chronic loneliness. The stark irony lies in the fact that our global connectivity has become nearly instantaneous and more accessible at a lower cost. Despite these advancements, it's not uncommon to wake up one day and realize that you feel isolated. As we've embraced advanced technology and societal development, our bodies and minds remain fundamentally unchanged from 50,000 years ago. Despite the strides we've made, we are still the same at our core. Biologically, we are wired to be with each other. Extensive studies reveal that the stress from chronic loneliness can contribute to various health conditions, accelerating aging, making cancer more lethal, hastening the progression of Alzheimer's, and weakening the immune system. The experience of social pain triggers an immediate and defensive response, pushing your brain into self-preservation mode and distorting your perception of reality. Studies suggest that loneliness heightens your brain's sensitivity to social cues, leading you to assume the worst about others' intentions. In an attempt to shield yourself, you may become more self-centered, projecting an image of coldness and social awkwardness that doesn't align with your true nature. This creates a vicious cycle, trapping you in a pattern that can be challenging to break. Your own self becomes your own enemy. Instead of working as protections, your systems heighten the attack on your mental well-being. If we can reprogram ourselves, ensuring that our own system does not trap us or act as an attack on our well-being, being alone may not be entirely negative. In a state of solitude, there's a unique opportunity for total focus and undivided attention on oneself. It's in these moments that we can uncover insights and understanding that might only emerge when our attention is finely tuned. However, this hinges on our ability to effectively manage the emotional side of being alone. We could start breaking down and seeing it more clearly without emotions overwhelmingly taking over. Being physically alone doesn't always equate to loneliness. If we refrain from associating solitude with rejection or depression, being alone can actually offer great advantages for taking care of ourselves and further down for self-improvement. The positive impacts of being alone include boosting creativity, enhancing concentration, promoting self-reflection, reducing stress, providing brain rest, and facilitating mindfulness and meditation. We no longer live in a world where our existence is solely tied to tribes fighting for survival. Instead, we have great connections and comforts available at a very low cost. If we can shift our thoughts toward a more positive perspective and accept that, at times, our lives may be lonely, a universal experience not just for ourselves but for everyone, what does it really come down to? Perhaps it's about accepting it and gradually finding better ways to take care of that emotion when it visits. Maybe it's about acknowledging it and figuring out the best way to live with it, recognizing that this occasional sense of loneliness might persist, but it will not overtake and be in control unless we let ourselves get lost in that vicious circle of distortion. Ultimately, it's about reclaiming power over our emotions, forging our path toward resilience, and understanding that moments of loneliness are just a part of the journey. Know that you are not the only one feeling this way.